By the way, here's a book we just released. Smith is an easy name to remember. Can I show you the back too? Look at that. Photography, unlike drawing, includes every wrinkle. Drawing, you don't have to put that in. But I'm pleased with this. I earned every one of these wrinkles. In my house we have a saying, by the time you're 50, you have the face you deserve. So this is a book that was prepared of some of my more recent paintings, and I could give you a little taste of that. So here is an example. I actually live in this house with the red door and the white pop of birch, and this is a time when one of my neighbors in this building had just died and I was missing him, and he used this form of a boat to make fiberglass boat. So this is a mold, and this is an exit that's highly exaggerated to get the feeling that the world is kind of collapsing, but still on St. Paul Street there's paradise where we live. I must have done at least 35 thumbnails to capture all the feelings that I wanted in that painting before I started. I don't paint in red very often, but I know in China they love red, so I painted this tattoo shop at night and really flooded it with as much red as I could give it. And I thought that the lettering of the shop was a bit Asian as well. It turned out that in mainland China, it's against the law to have tattoos. Here's an example of how I really love to paint. It's completely from memory, and the trick about painting from memory is you won't remember any insignificant details, so it's such an advantage. You don't wind up putting insignificant details into a painting. Each of these has a story by himself. This is a fantastic bookstore that sells only used art books. It's fantastic. And here there's a guy who works in the movie industry and designs sets, and it's fantastically beautiful inside. And this is a bookstore shop, and it's no surprise that would be red. You can probably guess that I wasn't standing on location painting this. It's under the expressway. There's a flatbed truck racing through and another car with reflections. That day, I just held my cell phone out the window and drove around the city and took pictures, lots of pictures, and then came back. So this one I actually worked up from a picture. What I particularly like about it was I was doing a whole series of paintings on passageways where we're thinking about going through something or into something. And the older you get, the more experience you get as a painter, the more you leave out things and have fewer colors and bolder shapes. So this is, I feel, a strong composition and a pretty simple composition, but it's much stronger because it is. The other side of the pages are poems, and I'd love to read you the poems, but I won't take the time right now. This painting is dark and turbulent on this side, with an arrow coming up to seeing underneath the railroad bridge. And I guess it's a little corny, but it's a metaphor that works and everybody gets it, that no matter how dark things are now, there's still light at the end of the tunnel. And this was seen by an organization that had commissioned me to do another version of it with a yellow brick house through there. Their organization was creating Safeway houses. It was called Yellow Brick Organization. So apparently it really works, and I often, in my own particular style, love to have two styles in the same painting. So this is all style done with palette knife and scraped and rough and loose, and this is more carefully painted and more realistic, or just calm. This is supposed to be more turbulent. This is supposed to be calmer. So that happens, and here's a more clear example of it. The first thing you're going to look at here is the high contrast and things that are identifiable. The bright is bright, sharpest edges with dark, your eye will go right there. And then sooner or later, your eye will be attracted to the brighter colors. And then eventually, you'll work up to some realistic colors, which is another whole style. The very bottom of the highway signs, a little bit of an arrow pointing down. And the intention of doing that was, as you look up, you your attention just takes a little surprise, and you get the feeling that you're moving under it through the passageway. That was my intention. You don't always win with your things you're experimenting with and creating, but a lot of people have told me they've had that effect, so I guess it worked. This is a drive-in theater, since we're talking about passageways. I know for lots of young people, there's a different kind of passageway at the drive-in theater. This was where my past studio was, my previous studio. Streetcar going under the bridge at Logan and Dundas. And I particularly liked, and it was in the winter, but I liked how warm it was for a winter painting and how some of these little lights glow in the dark. And the reflection of the streetcar. These are the things that turn me on. I know it sounds simple, but it's a very visual world. This was the way into my previous studio, and so again, it's a passageway, sort of from the everyday world of paying your bills and getting up and brushing your teeth into that world that's your studio, which is another whole world, and you're entering your imagination. This is it, a photograph of it, and here is how I felt going into that studio. So again, thank you for looking at the book. I have 3 books that we'll share with you over time, and thanks for watching this video.